I just want everyone to take a moment and take a look at the hallway, this picture of the hallway. It is not Matawan Regional High School. This is a high school that is in Georgia. You may have seen this picture before, but I think it is extremely important to take a look. This is how I would classify what the hallways look like at changes of class, beginning of the school day, end of the school day, at Matawan Regional High School and any high school in the United States. Except for there's a couple students wearing masks. There's a lot of students in the hallway. Just take a minute and think about if we were setting these types of conditions, the kind of concern that we should have for our children, given the amount of information that we know about COVID-19. This is from an actual high school. It's from North Paulding High School, which is located in Georgia. That picture was taken during the first week of in-person instruction. In the first week, they had 9 positive COVID cases that were reported. It forced an immediate transition to virtual learning for all. My piece about this is, how do you perform contact tracing in an environment like this? How can I call the local health department and have a conversation with them about conducting contact tracing, and I, as the adult, having to turn over the information about who could potentially be, who could potentially have contracted COVID-19 if those are the environmental conditions that I'm setting? How do you prevent community spread in an environment like this? And above all, how do you tell your staff and your students that their safety is the #1 priority in an environment like this? In looking at this picture, I don't feel as though I could tell anybody that the most important thing to me is their health and safety. These are not the environmental conditions that would allow for me to make that statement. And so last Monday, I sent a letter to everyone in the Matawan Regional High School community that outlined some of the basic safety precautions that were taking place at Matawan Regional High School. The first bullet, which has attracted a lot of attention, is that students will not be changing classes. That's going to be really, really important in making sure that we have control over the amount of interaction that students are having and the amount of contact that students are having outside of the classroom. I know that that does not sound like a traditional American high school. It definitely does not sound like Matawan Regional High School, but these are the types of decisions, again, it puts health and safety at the forefront. It is the most important piece. In addition to that, when students who are in person go into the classroom that they are assigned, they will have specific student desks that they will sit at. They will sit at the same desk on the A day if they're here on Monday and Tuesday. Students who are B days will come on Thursday, Friday, and will sit at the same desk. The desks are going to be marked with different colored tape so that A day students will sit at one color and B day students will sit at another. In addition, and this is another one that we're going to talk a lot about tonight, but I want to make sure that we are all on the same page with the precautions that were put out last Monday. There will be 10 people maximum per room. Based upon the way in which the plan has been adopted, that means that on the largest attended day, there will be 216 students in the building. Please note that I said 10 people, which means that 27 rooms at Matawan Regional High School will be utilized. 8 students, 2 adults in each classroom. We're going to go more into that and how that structure is going to work. Lockers will not be utilized. I understand that one of the things that really kids get excited about is having a locker, being able to decorate the locker, but I cannot tell you that I am putting health and safety first with the amount of contact and the amount of side-by-side that goes on when students are using lockers in the hallway, in PE, and in dance. In addition, there's going to be a strict procedure for leaving the classroom for any reason. We're going to talk about what that procedure is and why that procedure is so important. Lastly, there's going to be mandatory masks for staff and students. Because the governor made the decision to make this a blanket statement of mandatory masks for staff and students, my original inclination was to take this bullet out. but I want to make sure that I am giving credit where credit is due. I was fortunate enough to serve on the subcommittee that spoke about some of these health and safety requirements and that addressed some of these issues. I am proud of the fact that the governor announced mandatory masks for all staff and students. Originally, it was staff, if you remember, and students optional or students by level, and he made it a blanket statement, staff and students. I am proud that as early as July 15th, we were already talking about making it mandatory masks for staff and students. In my mind, we were ahead of the curve, that's fine, but more importantly than anything else, from the very beginning, we've been thinking about health and safety as being the most important thing for the students of Matawan Aberdeen Regional School District, and specifically Matawan Regional High School. I also want to draw some attention to some guidance that was released on August 13th, 2020. I gave a couple samples that if you would like to access, the link is at the bottom. We're going to make all of the links in the PowerPoint accessible to you within the next 24 hours so you can go through them. A couple things that are interesting though. This first bullet talks about contact tracing in accordance with the guidelines that were released by the NJDOH, the New Jersey Department of Health, on August 13th, 2020. I'm not somebody who likes to read PowerPoint slides, but this one hits particular home for me. Close contact is defined as being within 6 feet of someone with suspected or known COVID-19 for at least 10 consecutive minutes. In some school situations, it may be difficult to determine whether individuals have met this criterion, and an entire cohort, classroom, or other group may need to be considered exposed, particularly if people have spent time together indoors. That sounds to me like a traditional high school classroom. 20 to 28 students in it, close together, all within 6 feet. Some of them could be suspected, could have COVID-19, but if they do, that would mean that entire classroom we would have to go and put into quarantine or isolation. The next bullet kind of speaks to that. The risk of COVID-19 transmission is lower when small in-person classes, activities, and events. I'm defining that as 8 students, 10 people in a classroom or less. Students remain at least 6 feet apart and do not share objects. They don't share lockers. They remain at least 6 feet apart. I can do that in a classroom if I have 10 total people in it. I can't do that in the classroom if I have 20 to 25 students in it. Quite honestly, I can't do that in a classroom if I have 15 students. Groups of students stay together and are with the same teacher throughout the school day, and groups do not intermingle. This is the toughest one for me. The teachers will be transitioning from classroom to classroom, yes. So we are not fully at that bullet. We are having the transition. It is a necessity when you think about the different types of classes that students are taking. But the groups of students that are in the classroom will stay together. They will not have the same teacher, but the groups of different classrooms will not intermingle, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. The COVID closure tool. It is on page 15. I urge you to please read through it. The tool identifies the level of closure that might be used. In other words, are we closing one classroom for deep cleaning and relocating the class the next day? Are we closing the wing of the building? Are we closing the entire school? Do we have to make the decision to close the district? But in the end, and this is something I'm going to repeat over and over again throughout this presentation because it is something that the Department of Health is consistently reminding schools about, the ultimate decision will be the result of consultation between the Matawan Aberdeen Regional School District and the local health department. And we're going to talk about how that conversation would go so everyone is comfortable. In addition to that, the New Jersey Department of Education has a website that talks about school reopening frequently asked questions. I gave 2 samples. The website itself is rather long. I encourage you, please read through it. I have read through this frequently asked questions site a number of times. It goes from everything from are students required to wear face coverings during specials and electives. It goes into should school districts require daily testing of all students and staff. The information that is on that website is incredibly helpful and is really driving and assisting with the decision-making process of my team and of the staff who are working to make sure we have the safest and healthiest possible environment for all staff and students. I want to talk for a couple minutes at the very beginning about the protocol for students or staff who test positive for COVID-19. You should understand that the Monmouth County Health Department will be notified immediately. The Monmouth County Health Department will be the ones conducting contact tracing in consultation with my office at Matawan Regional High School. Obviously, a different office in different buildings. The whole process, if a student or a staff member tests positive, will be a collaborative effort between the Monmouth County Health Department and the school district. It is our job as the school district to be able to assist the health department by providing them with individuals of whom close contact has taken place and their contact information to assist with contact tracing. That's why a lot of the protocols that have been put into place, the keeping students in the same classroom, the strict movement procedure from room to room in the event they have to go to places like the bathroom, the main office, or to the front office because they're being signed out. So that's the reason why the entire process of making sure that we know where students are going at all times and their whereabouts at all times is really important. In addition to this, and this is a question that I've gotten some, this is an issue I've gotten some questions about. There are some students who are saying that they cannot wear a face covering. Remember, masks are mandatory for students and staff. We will be making available a face covering accommodation form. The student or the parent and guardian must complete the face covering accommodation form, but the form must be accompanied by documentation from the student's physician. Once we have the documentation from the student's physician and the face covering accommodation, a determination will be made as to whether we need to conduct a 504 meeting, in other words, an accommodation meeting, or an IEP meeting if the student is special education, to determine the best way to make sure that we are protecting and maintaining the health and safety of that student and other individuals. Please understand that if you submit one of those forms, there are two options if you are an in-person student. You must either A, wear a face covering while the form and the physician's note are being reviewed by my staff, or you must stay home until you receive written confirmation that the note was accepted and accommodation granted. It will be a quick process, but it is important that we make sure that we are protecting all of the students and staff, and that's why the condition is that the face covering must remain, or you can stay home until you receive written confirmation from my office that the note was accepted and granted. Students leaving the classroom. This slide speaks to the specific steps that my staff is going to utilize if students leave the classroom. I'm going to very much condense it. If a student is in the classroom and says, Mr. Eiler, I have to go and I have to use the facility, the staff member is going to complete what's called a COVID-19 student movement request form. This is what the form looks like. The staff member will have to fill in the student ID number, the student's first name, the student's last name, the teacher of whom the classroom they are leaving, the grade, the classroom location they are in, and the destination that they are going to. After the staff member fills out that form, the information will automatically be routed to our front desk. From that point, we will be walkie-talking a staff member who will go to the classroom, will open the door, the student will come out, the student will go to the location that they are requesting to go to. The security guard will wait if it's somewhere like the restroom. If it's somewhere quick like the main office to pick something up, they will obtain it there. We're going to try and minimize that kind of movement, but then the security guard will escort the student back to the classroom that they came from. The student will enter the classroom. The security guard will walk you back to the main office to tell them the time the student returned to the classroom, and now we have it logged, the location for where the student was when they were not there. This is critically important because depending on where the student is going, when we get into talking about speech-related services, if the student is in the classroom and has to go for their related services, then the student is there in the environment and another student enters that environment, there is the potential for more classrooms to be infected if one of those students comes up positive with COVID-19. We are doing everything we can, as I hope you can see and I hope you would acknowledge, we are doing everything we can to make sure that we have the ability to tell the local health department, the Monmouth County Health Department, where our students are at all times. Any student that they call and ask us, where was so-and-so, where was Aaron Eiler, who did he come in contact with, did he leave the classroom? We will be able to provide that information, which is incredibly important in making sure that other students are able to not get sick. Incredibly important. The other thing that I want to make sure that we cover is that there is a critical difference between the usage and the definition of the words isolation and quarantine. Isolation refers to separating people infected with COVID-19 from those who are not infected. If a student comes to school and they need to go to the nurse, or they say, Mr. Eiler, I'm not feeling well, and they go to the nurse and they are experiencing symptoms related to COVID-19, we have a specific room that we will be utilizing where the student will be there and waiting for someone to pick him or her up. That is an isolated activity. Quarantine refers to separating people exposed to COVID-19 from those who are not exposed. If there is a student who goes and tests positive for COVID-19, there is a possibility, in consultation with the local health department, that we will be making phone calls to the parents and guardians of those students that night, telling them that they should quarantine at home for 14 days because a student who is in the class tested positive for COVID. All of this will be done with the local health department, but it is important that we acknowledge, we understand, and we utilize these terms correctly so that we, number one, have control of the situation, and number two, do not ensue panic or a greater level of concern than what is absolutely necessary. But again, keeping health and safety at the forefront, these are the types of things that we are thinking about at all times. The question of when to quarantine. If a student or staff member is exposed, one of the things that the Monmouth County Health Department is continuing to emphasize to us is that you cannot test out of quarantine. The symptoms can appear 2 to 14 days after exposure. So if students and staff are asked or told to quarantine, they must stay home for 14 days after the last contact with a person who has tested positive for COVID-19. Those types of days, one of the questions we get, will they be excused? They will absolutely be excused. They are days where we are saying, stay home. It is in the best interest of you staying home. It's incredibly important. So these are words that more and more are going to become part of the vocabulary of American education as we continue. My hope is that by giving you a couple slides talking about them, that I am able to kind of get you out in front and understanding why these words are being used and how these words are being used, so that we can make sure we're keeping everybody safe and everyone as healthy as possible at Matawan Regional High School. If you feel sick, meaning student, staff member, if you feel sick or believe you have been exposed to COVID-19, the protocol is number one, obviously ensure your own safety. Second, please call Ms. Godowski, the nurse, at 732-705-5277 as soon as practical. What I mean by that is ensuring your own safety is critical. I appreciate that people will be working hard to get information to the school to make sure that we can protect others, but ensure your own safety. All of the reporting should go to our school nurse at that number. She will get the information to me so that I can work with the local health department and district administration to identify the next steps, communication out with the community. These are all things that we need to do together as a community, as a high school community, as a community of Matawan and Aberdeen, to make sure that we are continuing to be healthy and continuing to ensure the safety of our students and staff, as well as the loved ones who are at home. One of the pieces that everyone should understand, we have at the high school a code of conduct. Students are required to wear masks. Students who are refusing to wear masks, we are classifying that as dangerous behavior. In other words, conduct of such character as to constitute a continuing danger to the physical well-being of other pupils. Now, if a mask falls off, everyone, I hope we can understand that we're being practical about this and reasonable. If a mask falls off, we are not saying that a student is going to have a referral and then potential disciplinary updates. I'm referring to a student who refuses to wear the mask and fearfully, I don't want to say this, but this has been something that has been in the news. I trust that our students will not conduct themselves this way, but students who take their mask off and are coughing on other people as though it is some kind of a joke will be placed on immediate virtual instruction, and there will be a hearing with me within the first 4 days to determine if there needs to be additional consequences, meaning staying on virtual instruction, or if we can use one of the strategies below, and these will be dealt with on a case-by-case basis. But it's important for me to convey to you that we take this issue extremely seriously, that we expect students and staff to be wearing their masks at all times, and we will be dealing with these situations as a disciplinary issue should they arise. Checking in every day. This is another piece that is dramatically different. Obviously, we've not done this before unless you've been involved in the summer with extended school year or athletics. Mr. Tiberzi has been working tirelessly to make sure that this process is done and is fluid for our student athletes over the summer. Before arriving at school every day, students are required to complete the self-screening Google form. This is what it looks like. It's just the student's ID number, some basic demographic information, the school that the student is going to, the grade or position, what their temperature was that morning. It then lists the various symptoms that are associated with COVID-19, asking to clarify if the answer is yes, a couple other questions, and then at the bottom, just asking for an emergency contact name and emergency contact phone number. This is absolutely critical. If there is something that I would ask, there's a number of things that I would ask, but if there's one really important thing I would ask is please, 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 now more than ever, please make sure that your emergency contact information is up to date in real time in the parent portal when it opens. In addition, we're asking for you to put it on this form. We're also asking that you give us the name of someone who can pick up the child within 30 minutes. And we're asking for an emergency contact phone number. This is incredibly important because if in the event, as we spoke about before, a student needs to be isolated because they are demonstrating symptoms of COVID-19, they will be placed in the isolation room. The goal of putting them in the isolation room is to give them a space where they will not spread the virus, and then hopefully we can get them to you to see a physician as soon as possible. This form has to be filled out every single day before the student comes to school, before they get on the bus. When they arrive, they'll be forming a line. We are going to assign specific entrances that students will come in. So students in the last week of August are going to receive an email that will give them the specific entry point for them, and they will form a line where someone will verify that they completed the form. In addition to that, they'll verify that they have a mask and that they are wearing it appropriately. Once that takes place, the student will be admitted to the building. You can only imagine the number of students that we spoke about before, how long this process could take. It could take an incredibly long time. If we use 4 entrances, we're still talking about 50+ students to verify at each entrance. My staff, my team understands we are going to go as fast through the process as reasonable. There are obviously a number of logistical concerns about what happens in the event of inclement weather. And we are going to make sure that we get protocols out to everybody so that everyone knows where the staging areas are in the event of inclement weather, what entrance that the student is arriving at. They'll simply have to just present their ID or their student ID number. It'll be cross-verified. I also left on here that the staff will be required to sign in electronically and complete the self-screening form. I just want to click back and show everybody. Staff will be completing the same self-screening form that students will be completing. In my mind, this is incredibly important because we are continuing to build a community that is making sure that everyone is being protected. This is just one layer of protection that's going to be really important in enforcement and making sure that we are treating everybody to make sure that they are healthy and safe. And we're not just implementing something for students. It is staff also. You should also know that the document, the Google form that I just showed you, is the plan A for right now. We are currently in communication with 3 companies. I believe we're down to 3. It was a lot more than that about a week ago. We are down to 3 companies that are telling us that they have a product that will be able to do this better than the Google form process that I just showed you. Worst case scenario though, if we needed to implement this tomorrow, we would be implementing this tomorrow. Mr. Tiberzi has been using this type of process for athletics over the summer. It does take a long time, but it is safe and it is making sure that we are on top of any student who may be coming into the building and demonstrating some kind of symptoms that are infectious. If the student answers yes to any of the questions or just demonstrates any of the symptoms, it will automatically log those results and you will receive a phone call from Ms. Godowski at some point during the day, checking in on the student and asking if there's any assistance that you need or that the family needs to make sure that we get the student the help they need in seeing a physician. Student dismissal is another area that is going to take a long time. As I said before, we are in the upper 20s of the number of rooms that we will need. Security staff are going to be given what is called a waterfall document. All of the classrooms will be broken up into 4s. There are 4 security guards. Security guard 1 will make the call and release students from one classroom. On the opposite side of the building, security guard 2 will then release another classroom. In another area of the building, security guard 3 will release another classroom. It will be completely controlled. Each security guard will release a classroom when told. The entire process is going to be controlled by one of my main security guards at the front desk who has got a view on the cameras so he can make sure that we are spacing students out with social distancing parameters of 6 feet or more throughout the entire process. Again, this is going to take a long time, but the reality is it is the safest way to do it to make sure that we are releasing in some kind of a staggered schedule. In the end, students may not be dismissed until a security guard comes to the door. Once the process starts, we cannot have early release students. It's incredibly important to keep that in mind. So once the process starts, it is important to understand that if you show up to the building to sign your student out, they will not be able to leave until their room has been called. In addition, the meal distribution plan and ordering process, menus are going to be distributed monthly. You have to pre-order by Monday, by the end of the day Monday at 11:59 for meals the following week using an online ordering process. This is exactly what the form is going to look like. I'm just going to type in some random stuff so that I can show you the next fields. This is going to be used district-wide, so it will impact everybody. Each time that you click next, it will take you to the next day of the week. So the first day of school is obviously September 8th. The first thing you have to identify is whether or not on September 8th, your student will be virtual, meaning at home, or they will be in person, meaning in the building. If you want lunch, there is no breakfast on the first day of school. You can check off that you'll be taking lunch. I'm going to be in person for this day. Next. And then Wednesday, 9/9. Wednesday, everybody's virtual, except for the special population classes, self-contained, ESL. We're going to get more into that. And you can select off breakfast, lunch, etc. And the form will take you through, and you can order for each day that you want to make sure that your child has breakfast and lunch. So the ordering process will be done online and available to you on the website. The way that the delivery will go, specialized populations, so self-contained classrooms, students who are ESL students, Students who are here in those special populations for the entire day, there will be boxed meals delivered to their classrooms that are ordered off the online form. For students who are on hybrid instruction, if they are in the building that day, grab-and-go meal packages will be delivered to the classrooms, but the students will not be eating lunch in school. It will be delivered to them 30 minutes before we are leaving for the rest of the day. Breakfast will be sent with home at the same time for the following morning. In addition, for remote instruction, if you are somebody who is getting meals back in the spring, you understand this process. There will be distribution sites. Multiple meals will be given to you at the same time. So even thinking about, in the event that for some reason we have to go to 100% remote instruction, the process is already built in for you. It will still be the same Google form. Everybody will just be virtual. Pickup will run the same way, and we will continue to communicate how that process will be refined depending on the situation that we're in. Now we're going to move on to section 2, talking about how the online instruction is going to work. And this is incredibly important for all students at Matawan Regional High School, because regardless of if you are somebody who elected to have hybrid instruction or in-person instruction, or you are somebody who is 100% online instruction, there is an online component that is absolutely critical to every single student at Matawan Regional High School. As you learned from Dr. Micah's letter this afternoon, as well as the Board of Education meeting last night, this is the plan that we are going with in Matawan Aberdeen Regional School District. Right now, I'm going to be talking only about 9th and 12th graders. 9th and 12th graders, this slide demonstrates for the AM session only where you will be. If you are a 9th grader and your last name is A through K and you elected to be on hybrid instruction, so an in-person piece, and your last name starts A through K, you will be in session, you will be in the building on Monday and on Tuesday. Students with last names that start L through Z, you will be virtual in the AM session. Again, we are only talking about the AM session right now. Last names L through Z, virtual. On Wednesday, every single student in the district, except for the special populations, is completely virtual. On Thursday, it flips. So students that are A through K, you were in person on Monday and Tuesday. Thursday, Friday, you're going to be going 100% virtual. Last names of individuals who start L through Z, on Monday and Tuesday, you were virtual. Thursday, Friday, you are in person. This is the way that the AM sessions for 9th and 12th graders, if you selected hybrid, will look. In addition, the note at the bottom, please make sure you pay attention to that. All 9th and 12th grade Monmouth County Vocational School District students, so in other words, Career Center, Automotive, if you elected the hybrid model, you will attend in person on Thursday and Friday at Matawan Regional High School. Students who are Monmouth County vocational students, Monmouth County Vocational School District has said that you will be doing your in-person work on Monday and Tuesday. And we have a slide that goes into greater detail of that later on in the presentation. But again, 9th and 12th grade students, if you are A through K, your in-person days are Monday and Tuesday. If you are L through Z, your in-person days are Thursday and Friday. Everyone is virtual on Wednesday, except for students who are in the special populations that have been identified, self-contained, ESL. We'll talk more about that also as we continue through the process. If you are a student, now this is the beginning, so on September 8th, and this is September 8th, any student, whether you selected virtual or you selected in person, if you are a 10th and 11th grader, your schedule is 100% virtual. We are utilizing across the district a phased-in plan to return students to school. Why? Because it is the safest way to slowly bring populations back in and make sure that we can control the population small and then continue to grow it as the population continues to return to the building. On or around October 5th, the district is planning to transition to a hybrid model for all grades at that point. So Once the decision is made that yes, 10th and 11th grade students are going to go and have a hybrid model option also, your schedule will look similar to this. We'll release a slide, but in the end, it will be 9th through 12th grade, A through K on Monday, Tuesday, L through Z, Thursday, Friday. Everyone is remote on Wednesday. But for right now, for September 8th, regardless of what your last name is, if you are a 10th or an 11th grader, you are A through Z, 100%, you are virtual. I cannot emphasize that enough. It is extremely important. You have to understand, if you are a 10th or 11th grader, I realize I'm getting repetitive at this point, but well, maybe before this point, but if you are a 10th or 11th grader, A through Z, anybody in the building, 10th, 11th grade, you are virtual. I cannot say that enough. And communication will start coming out as soon as practical about the transition to hybrid for 10th and 11th grade students. Also, the district right now is planning for October 5th to start that process. This is another really important piece about the plan that we've developed at Matawan Regional High School. This plan will be utilized on September 8th. If we have to go 100% virtual, I'm going to explain how the plan that we're laying out is going to work. If we go 100% hybrid, so in other words, when we get to October 5th, the schedule I'm about to talk about is not going to change. And if we return to 100% in person, and I am really hoping that that happens as soon as possible, the schedule is already created, the program, the plan at the high school is already created to accommodate for that. The key is that this plan is being implemented so that we do not have to change student schedules during the course of the year. Whether the student is virtual or the student is hybrid, that student's schedule in real time will stay exactly the same, which on the high school level is incredibly important because it has implications for transcript, implications for college. That is why the plan that we're about to get real in depth about was created and is being implemented this way. This is a huge, huge point. I can't emphasize it enough. This is, again, going into transcript mechanics. Every single student in the building, when Realtime opens up, the schedule and the students that are in the class that are identified in Realtime are those that will serve as the teacher of record. This is what I mean by that. If Aaron Eiler is the US History 1 teacher in Realtime and Sean Cronin is in my period 2 class, regardless of what the program is that Sean has gone and decided to participate in, hybrid, in person, regardless, I am the one who will be providing grades, I'm the one who will be providing assignments, and I'm the one who will be conducting Google Meets with Sean, Mr. Cronin. Just as every other year that has taken place in school, grading categories, the way in which grades are assigned, are going to be shared out by the teacher of record at the beginning with the syllabus, and we will be going back to the decisions that were in existence in September. The reason I put that out there, if you remember, for the 3rd and 4th and final exam last year, because of the circumstances, we adjusted it so that everybody was using the same categories. We eliminated the final exam so that the 4th marking period counted twice. For this year, going into this year, we will be utilizing the syllabi that are district approved and created, the same ones that students received last year on the first day of school in September 2019. That is incredibly critical, because what that means is that if you need a primary contact, for instance, for Sean Cronin's US History 1 teacher who is assigning grades, you just need to go to Realtime, email the teacher, or contact the teacher that is listed in Realtime. Regardless of if you have a hybrid program, you're going into the building, into school, or if you are 100% virtual. Maintain those lines of communication with the teachers that are listed in Realtime. They are the ones who are assigning grades based on students turning in material, tests, quizzes. They're the ones providing assignments. They're the ones conducting Google Meets. So let's talk a little bit about what student schedules will look like in the PM. This is another dramatic shift from the way in which we handled remote learning in the spring last year. We have to now imagine that it's 12:15. In the morning, students who are virtual were working on virtual assignments and working with a teacher who was providing support in the virtual period. Students who are in person were getting instruction in the building, in the classroom, from a live teacher in the AM. This slide is only talking about the afternoon. In the afternoon, on Mondays, your children will be having Google Meet sessions with their periods 1, 2, 3, and 4 teacher as defined in real time. So when real time opens up, and I'm going to keep saying this because it is incredibly important, when real time opens up, periods 1, 2, 3, and 4, as they are defined in real time, that's the Google Meet sessions that your child will be having in the PM on Monday and on Thursday. The first session will go from 12:15 to 12:35, and you can read through the times of the second, third, and fourth session. If the student has lunch for period 4, then on Monday and Thursday for the fourth session, period 4, they would not have a Google Meet. They'll follow the schedule as it is identified in real time. They have to be present. Attendance will be counted. It is incredibly critical that they are logging on and they are available to meet virtually with their assigned teacher during those Google Meets. The same holds true for Tuesdays and Fridays. They will have Google Meet sessions with their real-time teacher, periods 5, 6, 7, and 8. Incredibly important that they log on for these different sessions. The Google Meet links to access those sessions will be available in the Google Classroom. Students will all be given the Google Classroom code by their real-time teacher in the first week of school, and we will also have a master list of all of the Google Classroom codes available on the website, just like we did in the spring, so that students can quickly find their teacher's Google Classroom code by period to log in to make sure that they can attend their Google Meet session. Continued. Day 1, day 2, we talked about that. Each Google Meet will be 20 minutes. Attendance will be required. Students who are struggling with virtual attendance. So what I mean by this is there are going to be hiccups. Part of the reason why I am sitting in my office conducting this webinar is because I don't 100% trust my Wi-Fi at home. We know those things are going to happen. It's more important, though, that the student and the parent understand what to do if they are having a hard time attending Google Meets, the virtual Google Meets. Contact the school personnel in the order below. Start with, obviously, the classroom teacher, conversation with the school counselor, case manager, and then the grade level administrators are listed there. Follow that chain, because our job is to make sure we can support students. And we know that everybody has different situations at home when it comes to access to technology, which we're going to talk about, when it comes to the quality of the Wi-Fi, which we're going to talk about. It is important not that students get frustrated, but that they know who to reach out to in the event that they are not able to attend their PM virtual session, their PM Google Meet, where they will be getting direct instruction from the teacher who is identified in real time. Now let's get to the big topic, the hot topic that everybody, I think, is curious about, especially given the conditions that we've put out there. Before I do that, though, I do want to make sure I go back, and I apologize, I should not have skipped this. In the afternoon on Wednesdays, students will be working on assignments that they are experiencing from the AM sessions of that day. What I mean by that, on Wednesday, we are going to run a straight half-day bell schedule, periods 1 through 8. Students will attend Google Meets with their teachers in the AM following the regular bell schedule as though we were in the building. They will just access different links to be able to meet with different teachers. In the afternoon, the focus of the morning will be on direct instruction. It will be on new skills. In the afternoon, students should be working on refining those skills, on completing those assignments, and staff will be available for office hours on a schedule that will be provided to students. In addition to that, the staff is going to be working on making sure that we are keeping pace with the curriculum guides, and we're going to talk more about how that process is going to look. So talking about the in-person instruction piece, these are the students who are 9th and 12th graders, who have elected the hybrid model. So they are coming into the building. And again, A through K, 9th and 12th grade, you will be in the building on Monday and Tuesday. L through Z, you will be in the building if you elected the hybrid model on Thursday and Friday. There will be a 4-hour rotational period. As you can see, the school day runs 7:20 to 11:19. We'll have the regular breakfast and morning exercises in the classroom from 7:20 to 7:28. In the beginning, as I was talking about before, I expect for the entry to run into, the first rotation. Students will be assigned a home-based classroom. That home-based classroom will be emailed to students by 2:09 p.m. every Friday. Students will stay in a static location, rotation 1, rotation 2, rotation 3, rotation 4. During each of the rotations, different content area teachers will be going into the classroom to deliver direct instruction to small groups of students. So two teachers in the classroom, they will be able to break the classroom into 2 groups of 4 and be able to deliver direct instruction. Once 11:19 comes, teachers will be taking their lunch, taking a break from 11:20 to 12:15 so that students can travel home. Then, once it gets to 12:15, remember the schedule we just talked about with the PM, that's when the PM sessions will hit in. So if you are a student, you are in the in-person model, my last name is Eiler, so let's say that I'm in 9th grade, Aaron Eiler, the 9th grader, I'm gonna come to school on Monday and Tuesday. I'm gonna be in the classroom that I'm assigned for the rotations. Dismissal is at 11:19. I'm gonna go home, and that's when the PM schedules are going to take place. So students are going to have contact not only with their teacher virtually, but also teachers that are content area experts in the classroom, in the physical classroom. And I'm gonna explain why I keep saying content area experts. The Google Meets will be delivered by the teacher of record as identified in real time. The teachers that are in the classroom will be content area experts. What I mean by that, we are going to take the students, group them by grade level, and for instance, if Aaron Eiler is in class and Phil Tiberzi is a social studies teacher who teaches US 1, Phil Tiberzi may be put into my classroom for rotation 2 from 8:27 to 9:21. Phil Tiberzi is going to provide direct instruction for me. He's going to teach me the skills required to be successful in the course during that time period. Potentially Sean Cronin, who's another teacher. I'm a 9th grader. I'm struggling with biology. Sean Cronin is a science teacher. Sean Cronin and Phil Tiberzi are in rotation 2 in my classroom. 30 minutes, I'm gonna get instruction from Mr. Tiberzi. 30 minutes, I'm gonna get instruction from Mr. Cronin, social studies and science. And over the course of the week, students will have direct instruction from a teacher in the content area so that they are able to refine the skills that they should be learning when they're working in the Google Meets and the different virtual environments. So that is incredibly important. What takes place in the in-person sessions? There are a lot of rumors out there. I'm going to be candid about it, and I'm going to say that I put a specific bullet in here because this is the one that I want to make sure I can dispel right away. Students are receiving instruction from teachers certified in the content area. That's what I was talking about. There is a chance if Phil Tiberzi and Sean Cronin are both social studies teachers, and in real time, Sean Cronin is identified as my teacher of record. Yes, Sean Cronin is delivering my grades, or he's assessing my material. He is creating the assignments for me. But when I get into the classroom, one of the days when I get social studies instruction, it is possible that Phil Tiberzi, the social studies teacher, is the one who is reinforcing and delivering me the instruction. The in-person students, when we are in the building, are the priority. There will be constant instruction taking place in the classroom. This is the bullet that I want to make sure I highlight. I would bold it if I could get the screen to revisit. I heard this again about 20 minutes before we started the webinar. I am telling you, this is not a study hall, and it is not a time for students to log on and watch videos from their real-time courses. This is a time where direct instruction, where skills and understanding content is going to be taught in an in-person setting. Students are also going to get direct instruction. They're also going to get a reinforcement of skills from the teacher in real time during their virtual Google Meets. But when a student selects to be in the building, if they are selecting the hybrid environment and they are in the classroom, they will be getting direct instruction. I can't say it enough. It is not a study hall. It is not a time to log on and watch videos from their real-time courses. Now, I want to make sure that I'm clear. Is there a point where a student may need to watch a video to make sure that they understand what the topic is that is in place? Absolutely. The same way that when we were in school in November and there were students who might have needed to watch a video or they were working in small groups, my point is that it is not a study hall and students will not simply be sitting there watching videos or logging on and just checking out different Google Meets. It will be academic work in an in-person setting. We want to make sure we take advantage of the small amount of time that we have students in the classroom able to obtain direct instruction from a teacher. Critically important to understand. I also want to just touch quickly on special education instruction, and I'm talking specifically about in-class resource, so 2 teachers in a classroom and pull-out resource. Virtual learning will include all the accommodations and modifications. If a student selects to be hybrid and is in person, so Aaron Eiler is a special education student, last name starts with an E, I'm a 9th grader, I am in the building on Monday and Tuesday, I will have access to a special education teacher to make sure they can deliver the modifications and the accommodations that I need to be successful, but also that I need that are mandated within my individual educational plan. Classrooms will be mixed with both general education and special education students. What we're making sure that we do is we do not want to isolate certain classrooms or certain types of students. We don't want that to happen. We want to make sure that we are giving some element of the social environment in a very, very controlled setting, but we are going to make sure that when they are in the in-person environment, they also have access to a person who is an expert in special education and delivering the instruction that makes students successful and that aligns with the goals in their individual educational plan. Extremely important. One of the questions that I'm starting to get more and more of, and something I want to make sure that everybody understands, the transition from hybrid to virtual and the transition from virtual to hybrid. Right now, 9th and 12th grade students currently had the option of virtual versus hybrid. People filled out the survey, students are marked accordingly. 10th and 11th grade students, everyone is beginning virtual. The plan is to begin the hybrid model for 10th and 11th grade students on October 5th. If you are a student or if you're a parent or guardian of a child who is starting off as hybrid, so Aaron Eiler elected the hybrid model, I'm going to be in the building Monday and Tuesday as a 9th grader, but I go home, I don't feel comfortable, or mom, dad, parent, guardian says, I don't feel comfortable with you going. This can happen at any time. You can transition from the hybrid model to the 100% virtual at any time. The process is simple. There will be a form available on the website that I showed you earlier. You need to email that form to mrhsinfo@marsd.org. A member of the team will get that form. We will mark you accordingly on our documentation in the building of the day that you exited the hybrid model. And then they will call you just to confirm to make sure that is 100% your wishes. The transition from 100% virtual, so Aaron Eiler, 9th grader, last name starts with E, obviously. I decide, you know what? I want to give the hybrid model a shot. This can take place at the change of marking period. So in other words, November 11th is the end of the first marking period. What I need to do if I want to become hybrid, I'm going to email the same form to mrhsinfo@marsd.org at least 2 weeks prior to November 11th. A member of the team will call you to confirm that those are your wishes and that that is truly the model and the understanding that you have. And then on November 12th, you would start the hybrid model. That transition can happen 3 times over the course of the year: the end of the first marking period, end of the second marking period, and end of the third marking period. But to go from hybrid to 100% virtual can happen at any time. So I want to make sure that everyone understands that process in the event that you elect to go from hybrid to virtual, or you are thinking about going virtual to hybrid at the end of the first marking period. Another thing that I am going to ask, and I'm going to try and spread the word on this, and I'm asking people who are on the webinar to help me. There have been people who have been emailing me that they're going to be 100% virtual until the end of the first marking period. Please make sure you follow the process. Fill out the form at least 2 weeks prior. That form is going to be posted shortly. We are in the process of finalizing it. The language for how that process will work, or the regulation, I'm sorry, was just adopted last night as a second reading of the board meeting. So that form will be put up momentarily. If going into September 5th, you feel as though, you know what, second marking period, I want to go into a hybrid or an in-person environment, you could fill it out then. The key is just, I need that form to be on file with my staff, so we are clearly documenting when students are going back and forth. In addition, putting it in an email is not the appropriate way. It needs to have the form completed. So please make sure you complete that form and a member of the team. If you have difficulty with it, please email mrhsinfo@marsd.org. Another piece, and I just want to emphasize this for a second, MRHS info is the catch-all for email questions at the high school. If you have general questions and you're not sure, and you don't know if it's a counselor question, an assistant principal question, anytime you have a question, that email address is where to send information. There are 9 or 10 people that are monitoring that email address on a daily basis. Their job is to get the information from you, to understand the email you wrote, and then to forward it to the party that should be answering it. It's much like a help desk. So please, if you have general questions, email it there, and the individuals who are responding to those or forwarding those or monitoring the email address, they'll be able to take over and get the information, and you'll hear from the party that will be the most helpful. When it comes to unique classes and situations, I just want to talk a little bit about this. Monmouth County Vocational School District students who are part of the Shared Time program, Monmouth County Vocational Schools has told us they will attend there on Monday and Tuesday. Students are going to be grouped in a cohort of AM and PM vocational students. So Monmouth County Vocational should be reaching out to you to tell you if you are an AM or a PM student. We also have the list here if you need help. Please feel comfortable emailing mrhsinfo@marsd.org. A member of the team will get back to you so you know if you are an AM or a PM student. All freshmen and seniors who are attending Monmouth County Vocational students will attend in-person lessons at Matawan Regional High School on Thursday and Friday. So my name is Aaron Eiler. I am a freshman at Matawan Regional High School. I am also enrolled in the Career Center. Because my name starts with E, and Monmouth County is saying I will be in person on Monday and Tuesday because I'm from Matawan, I will go in person to the Career Center on Monday and Tuesday. And if I selected to be in the hybrid model, even though my name starts with E, I will be in person on Thursday and Friday. This way, students who elected the hybrid model are able to attend the in-person element of Monmouth County Vocational, and they can also attend the in-person element of Matawan Regional High School. We realize these are unique situations, and there is going to be more information sent directly to students who are, and parents and guardians who are enrolled in the Monmouth County Vocational School District programs. If you select remote learning for Matawan Regional High School, you'll still come here for transportation to the vocational school, but you will congregate in the front outside. The bus will pick you up just as though you were here, and then it will take you to Monmouth County Vocational School District. So hopefully some clarifying information for Monmouth County vocational students that will help out. In terms of related services, students who receive speech, students who receive OT, during the first 10 days, the related service providers, the speech language pathologists, the physical therapists, they will be developing the schedule to see the students on their caseload. They will distribute the schedule. For this, we're saying through the Monday morning briefing, that's an internal memo that I send to my staff. As parents and guardians and students, the related service providers will be reaching out to you directly. If the student is in the building, so they have selected a hybrid model, they're a 9th and 12th grade student, they selected a hybrid model, Aaron Eiler gets speech. That speech session will happen on either Monday or Tuesday while I'm in the building in the hybrid model, and the same process will be utilized. A security guard will escort the student from the classroom to the treatment session. When the treatment session is back, they will take the student back to the classroom that they came from, following the exact procedure identified in slide 10 of the presentation. That was that COVID-19 movement request form. In addition, we have a number of what I would term as being high-risk courses. General shop, food and nutrition, science labs come up a lot. We are still going to be able to provide students with the hands-on element of these courses. The difference is students who are 100% virtual, they are obviously going to have a very much theoretical basis for these programs. For example, and I'm kind of making a joke, although I think it's kind of lost its luster by this point, a student who is 100% virtual, I cannot send that student home with a bandsaw, so they will have a much more theoretical approach to that particular program. Food and nutrition, we are still trying to develop a way that we can have a food and nutrition class. And I mean, we can all imagine what a food and nutrition class is like with the amount of contact and the amount of exposure that students have, where there can be a practical component. But all three of these, and science labs included, I'll get to in a second, all three of these, there is going to be a very strong theoretical piece. When it comes to science labs, there will be demonstrations. Students will also be participating in the labs. However, they will be done in a sequence that will allow for the students to complete the labs for their courses, biology, chemistry, physics, all of the science courses. They will still have science labs, but they will be doing them in small cohorts of 8, and they will be rotated through so that students are able to complete the labs, but they will not be completing it entirely as a class. In addition, science labs will also have a demonstration piece. So there will be recordings, videos that will be done virtually when the students are home, where they will be able to watch certain labs be conducted. The labs that the science experts are telling us are not safe in this type of environment to be performed by students in a classroom. So science labs, there will be schedules that go out. There will be notifications that will be sent out to specific students that their lab schedule is coming up. And we will be making sure that we continue to work to give students more and more of the lab piece, the hands-on tactical piece that makes science classes so exciting. In addition, students who are self-contained, so in other words, students who are in our autism program, our MD program, there are going to be 2 information sessions that are going to take place. The first one, and also ESL students, students who are in the self-contained classroom, there's going to be an orientation August 26th, 2020 at 7 p.m. Specific invites for those students and families were sent this morning by one of the administrative assistants at the high school. So they've been added to that calendar request. Students who are ESL students, there will be an information session for just ESL students on August 20th and their families on August 27th, 2020 at 7 p.m. so that we can explain the idiosyncrasies of their individual programs. At this point, I'm going to ask Mr. Cronin to take over and talk a little bit about dual enrollment and Husky Early College Academy programs, because there are specific requirements that we need to meet as a school in order to make sure that we will get endorsed by Brookdale for issuing credits in these courses. Mr. Cronin?
Thank you, Mr. Eiler. Good evening, everyone. Just as Mr. Eiler mentioned, there is very specific details for the Brookdale dual enrollment classes, as well as all the Husky Early College Academy students. We will continue to meet the Brookdale minute requirements for instruction per credit. This will be slightly different in regards to the rotation and how the students who are taking Brookdale classes will be receiving the instruction per the rotations. We are going to have a information session the first week of school for students. So the week of September 8th, you will be receiving a Zoom link before then via email. If you do not receive the Zoom link by the first day of school for students, which is Tuesday, September 8th, please reach out to MRHS info@MARHS.org so we can confirm that we have your correct email on record in real time. If this is also a good point to mention that even if you are not participating in any of the Brookdale courses, please review that the correct information for your email addresses are on file in real time, because unfortunately many of our information sessions are going to continue to be virtual, and that is how Zoom meetings and Google Meets are going to be held. If you have any questions that you would like to be addressed, I know I have spoken with some parents throughout the summer regarding any of the Brookdale dual enrollment classes or Husky Early College Academy classes, please send them to marhsinfo@marhs.org prior to the week of September 8th. This way I can have as many answers as possible while speaking with our representatives from Brookdale. Thank you very much, Mr. Eiler, and thank you, everyone.
I'm now going to ask Mr. Tyberzi to speak a little bit about the athletic situation as defined by the NJSIAA, as well as co-curricular clubs and after-school activities.
Thank you, Mr. Eiler. Good evening, everyone. We're very excited that we've been able to start up our summer practices in accordance with the NJSIAA return to play safety guidelines. All of our student athletes are reporting to our practices. They're following the guidelines in terms of filling out a pre-screening form, getting their temperature taken, and following the social distancing requirements. Everything has been going well. It's great to see our kids out there participating, and great to see our coaches out there leading them. A couple pieces of information that are pretty important. Anyone who chooses virtual learning during this time period, they are still eligible to participate in athletics. That will not prohibit them from participating. And our practices are going to start as they normally do at the end of the school day. So anyone who is virtual will be able to get to practices and fully participate. The NCAA is constantly updating the Eligibility Center webpage in terms of what the requirements are going to be to gain eligibility for participation as a collegiate student athlete, in terms of what they will be accepting during the virtual learning period. So I linked that there for anyone who would like to read up on that. If you have any questions, you could always reach out to me. I'll certainly guide you through all the changes that are being made at the NCAA to, help accommodate all of our student athletes so that they can participate at the next level. Another piece of information is the governor just recently signed a sports physical extension bill for any student athletes that were unable to secure a doctor's appointment for a sports physical because of the current situation. Their sports physical, if they have one on file, will be extended throughout the fall season. There are a couple caveats. You have to show that you do have a scheduled doctor's appointment before the end of the fall season, and that sports physical would have to be turned in by the end of the fall season. So the extension bill has been passed by the governor. So right now our practices are going on. They are scheduled to end August 28th in accordance with the NJSIAA rules. And from August 29th through September 13th, practices will not be able to take place in person. Coaches will only be able to meet with their teams virtually. The reasoning for that is we really want to focus on getting schools up and running. Once that takes place, we'll be able to return to athletics September 14th or the 17th, which will be that Monday. We do have an abbreviated fall season. We have all of our schedules. Practices will continue through the remainder of September, and we will start our competitions at the end of September and early October. So we're excited to have our schedules, and we're ready to participate. Winter and spring, we still don't have clarification on schedules yet, and that's to be determined. So once we get the information on that, we'll certainly share that out with all of our student athletes, parents, and coaches. On the co-curricular front for our clubs, our process for starting up our co-curricular clubs is basically in alignment with athletics. During September, we're going to continue to assess the best way for starting up our co-curricular clubs with anticipated starts for full participation in October. So we're certainly looking to keep our co-curricular clubs and have them starting up in October. I can also comment on health and physical education. For health and physical education, during the first marking period, all students will be taking their grade level health or driver's ed portion of their health and physical education requirement. So everybody will be taking the, what would normally be the in-class requirement for health and physical education during the first marking period. Students who are virtual will receive the instruction from their teachers virtually, of course, and those that are hybrid will receive both the virtual and in-person instruction while they're in the building. Thank you, Mr. Aller.
Thank you, Mr. Tyberzi. The last section is just some miscellaneous information that I want to make sure is communicated. Again, not to be redundant, some of this has come out recently in some of the conversations at the Board of Education meeting. There is also frequently asked question documents that are located on the homepage, but these are some things that I pulled out that I think are really important for us to just continue to emphasize at the high school. The first is, do you need access to technology? Students who don't already have a district-issued Chromebook will be assigned one on their first day of instruction. You can opt to take the Chromebook home daily. However, the device is expected to be in school each day. This document, Chromebook Guidelines and Sign-Off, is available to you. This is what would need to be completed if you were going to be taking the Chromebook home with you. Carrying cases have also been ordered, and they will be given to students who elect to take the Chromebook home and transport back and forth. Students who are participating in full remote instruction may also request a district device. This parent technology request survey is what needs to be filled out. You can request the Chromebook here. It will be routed to a member of the technology department who will then get in contact with you about pickup, similar to how we did in the spring, but a little bit more structured. In terms of remote instruction, I'm sorry, I just went through that. Wi-Fi and other technology concerns. This is the tech support email. It's COVID-19 tech support at MARHS.org. In addition, and again, I don't like to give people a million different things. If you're not sure if it is something that should go to the COVID-19 tech support email or MRHSinfo@MARHS.org, please default to using MRHSinfo@MARHS.org. A member of my staff will route it to the COVID-19 tech support if that is where the email should go. But our goal is to make sure that if students need a device, especially given the intensity that we are using the afternoons for the Google Meets, students will have access to it. In addition, and this is something that I should emphasize, and I'm thinking about this now because I'm looking at the remote instruction. As you know, last night when it was approved, the remote instruction for 10th and 11th grade students immediately put 100% of them on remote instruction. They are getting virtual instruction. We are going to be getting out a special or a schedule to the students that are in 10th and 11th grade so that they are very clear and they understand, and all remote students, all virtual students understand what the expectations are during the AM session for what they are going to be completing virtually. They will also have more Google Meets with teachers. There are teachers in the building who are now freed up as 10th and 11th grade teachers to conduct their Google Meets. I was just talking with a teacher this afternoon who said to me, I teach all 10th grade classes. Is it possible for me to run my Google Meets in the morning and in the afternoon so that I can give the kids even more direct instruction? Since we have so many students that are now going to be virtual, namely all of the 10th and 11th graders at a minimum, absolutely there will be more Google Meets, there will be more support provided because the staff is now freed up without having a larger number of students in the building. So that is something that we are developing. It will be completely ready to go. It will be done obviously 100% virtual, and those students that are also 100% virtual because they opted for that will also have more Google Meets during the morning from staff who are freed up and assigned to them. So that information is coming, and it is incredibly important that you be on the lookout for it. In terms of transportation, information is going to be made available on the parent portal. Once all of the routes are done and the bus assignments are done, there will be an announcement on the district website. Right now, transportation is being provided for the students that we are mandated by state law. So in other words, the students that live a certain distance from the building. In addition to that, we will be following the hazardous route policy. If you have questions about either of those, please take a moment to go under the Board of Education section of the district website, select policies, type in transportation. The specific policy is located there. If you have a transportation question specific to transportation, please feel comfortable sending that to mrhsinfo@marsd.org, and we will make sure somebody gets back to you. It's important to know that at bus stops, social distancing is going to be required. Please remind your students to stay 6 feet apart. In addition, masks are required at the bus stops. When students are on the bus, masks are required. The buses are being marked with X's. X doesn't mark the spot. So students will be told, sit anywhere on the bus, but do not sit where an X is. It will be back to front in the seating chart. So when they go to pick students up, they will be assigning students towards the back of the bus in seats that do not have an X on it. Again, making sure that social distancing and that we are disinfecting the area as best as possible. Here's some information about the cleaning and disinfecting of the high school. There are three layers to the process. The first is training. The operations and maintenance, as well as the custodial team, is going through online training so that they are aligned to the new set of international standards set by the International Sanitary Supply Association Cleaning Management Institute. Cleaning is going to align with the steps and procedures that are located at this website. Again, all of these links will be available to you. The PowerPoint will be sent out to you, so you'll be able to access them. If you go to this website, there is a specific document that is called MARSD COVID Cleaning Procedures. That is the document you will want to review if you would like more information on the cleaning that is taking place in the building. After the cleaning is done, it will become an evaluation for the cleaning procedures. So normally evaluation is graded according to the Association for Higher Education Facilities Officers. Additionally, this year, the O&M department is going to be purchasing meters that are adenosine triphosphate. I feel like somebody was messing with me trying to get me to pronounce that. That's why they didn't write it out, but I did the best I could. But it gives you levels of disinfection effectiveness. So those meters will be utilized throughout the building, and they look for traces of organic compounds that should not exist after disinfection occurs. And we are still going through the evaluation process to make sure that not only on Wednesday are we cleaning, deep cleaning, because students are not in the building, but also when they leave at the end of the day on Monday and Tuesday. That's the reason also for the minimum number of rooms being utilized, but still keeping 10 people or less in each room. One thing that is going to be, this has always been a process at Matawan Regional High School, but it is going to be even more important this coming year. Visitors will only be permitted with a previously scheduled appointment. No one will be allowed in the building if they do not have an appointment. And everyone should understand that in order to have one of those appointments, there is a process for it internally. I am emphasizing to my staff that as many appointments as possible, whether it be parent-teacher conferences, whether it be counseling appointments, college selection procedure appointments, should be done online using a mechanism like Zoom or Google Meet. When you get to the front desk, the appointment, if warranted, will be verified before you can enter the building. And all visitors must fill out the COVID pre-screening form prior to entry. When your appointment is made, the individual who sets the appointment with you, will be emailing you the pre-screening form so you can complete it prior to arrival that day. Last, and I promise we are almost there. I realize it's been an hour and 37 minutes. I'm sorry it's so long, but it's a lot of information, and we are even just scratching the surface in some areas. We have what is called a pandemic response team. The pandemic response team is something that is mandated under the NJDOE's Road Back Plan. The members of the pandemic response team at the high school represent a cross-section of different disciplines. It includes teachers, it includes parents, it includes the nurse, myself, administrators, and this group is responsible for a number of things when it comes to the building, or when it comes to evaluating how successful we are being with our reentry. Here are the different bullets. I think some of the most important ones to take a look at are developing and implementing procedures to foster and maintain a safe and supportive school climate as necessitated by the challenges posed by COVID-19. As we continue through this process, as we get more and more comfortable with being back in the building, I would anticipate more and more restrictions being a little bit easier and manageable. In other words, we may eventually be talking about rotating classes. We may eventually be talking about having students be able to leave and complete the form themselves or not have an escort. But for right now, we are starting out ultra tight, and we are going to make sure that we have as much control as possible so that we are making it the safest and healthiest place for students to be. Just some additional communication information that is important. First, if you remember last year, we started sending out the Husky Weekly Update. The first version of the Husky Weekly Update will be launched on Sunday, August 30th, 2020 at 6:10 p.m. That will be in your email. We're going to start disseminating information about a lot of the programs. For example, the list that I gave before of high-risk classes is not meant in any way, shape, or form to be an exhaustive list of all of the classes that are keeping me up at night and that I'm thinking about all the time. For example, choir, instrumental music. These are all of the types of classes, and that is not meant to just end the list also. Those are the types of things that we are working tirelessly with the instructors. We will be meeting with the instructors of those programs next week to develop a plan to make sure that we are conducting those courses the safest way possible, while also making sure that we are giving students the best possible experience. And we are going to continue to evolve with the process for those programs. If your child is involved in instrumental music or vocal music, they will be hearing directly from the instructor of those programs how the program will run, so that it is coming directly from the teacher to the students and the parents or guardians. And that way, we can make sure that it is done the safest way possible in conjunction with the guidance that was released by the Arts Education Department of New Jersey, which is a subgroup that goes and supports the arts, obviously, but released a number of points to help school districts to make sure that they are running those types of programs the safest way possible. Same thing goes with the Science Educators of New Jersey. We are working to read through their guidance, and we will be implementing it the way that they say is the safest way possible. Lastly, and I can't emphasize this enough, and I'm just going to give it one more plug. When this site goes live, everybody will know. It's now an error, so I must have done something. My apologies. But that site will be live, and it will be a constant hub of information for students, for parents, guardians, for administrators. We have a team, a core team of people that are working tirelessly to make sure it is updated at all times. And lastly, I can't say it enough, mrhsinfo@marsd.org. That is your best email address if you have questions or concerns or need to find out information, but you are not sure of who the best point of contact is. One other element, and this is extremely important, when you email MRHS info, please do not CC anybody on that email. The way in which the email works, if you email MRHS info and somebody else is CC'd on it, the person who is CC'd will be expected to answer, not the MRHS info person. Sometimes that gets to be a little confusing. So please limit how many people are being added to emails. I realized that we went through a lot. I realized that I could probably go on for the next 12 hours because there will always be more questions, and we are in an uncertain time. And I would love to sit and go through every idiosyncrasy that is going to come across Matawan Regional High School. But the reality is, A, there's not enough time to be able to go through every unique circumstance, but B, I want to make sure that I am getting targeted information to staff, to parents, guardians, students for the programs that affect them. If you have lingering questions, we are at the end of the presentation. Please drop them in the chat box if you have not done so already. We are going to work extremely hard. I'm not sure how many questions are in there. I am sure there are a lot though, but we are going to work extremely hard to make sure we get the best possible answer out to you as fast as humanly possible. The last thing I want to leave you with is that we just have to remember that no matter what we do, we can only be saved by one person. And that one person is not somebody you would think. It is Batman. That's my son, Benjamin, as Batman. He was dressed up the other day and wanted to know if he could come to work with me, but I figured I would just take a picture with him and bring him to work. But then I had to remind him that if he comes to work, he's got to make sure that he wears his mask. So that's incredibly important. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight. I realize it's been a long night. I realize it's been an hour and 45 minutes. I realize you must have thousands of questions that still need to be addressed. I promise you, as I've said before, my team is dedicated to making sure we get you those answers. We answer them as fast as possible, and we make sure that we keep your child's health and safety at the forefront of every single decision that we make. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for trusting us at Matawan Regional High School. I look forward to the work we're going to do this year. I look forward to transitioning closer and closer to back to a 100% in-person model. And I want you to know that no matter what happens, I can't say this enough, the health and safety of the students and the staff of this building is my #1 priority. And you have my word that I am making every single decision, first asking myself, is this the way that I can keep these students and my staff safe? Thank you again for a great evening. Thank you for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Have a good evening.